What's going on? So this video gonna be about Jermaine Dupri talking about Escape, the group he had, and says it was a tough for the group considered not being cute. After what Biggie said about how he'd rather get with RuPaul than them, and Biggie, and you understand what Biggie and Diddy. Some people look at them lyrics suspect. Was Escape really that ugly? That's a matter of the eyes of the beholder. Ti and Tiny from Escape was with Ti, so you can make it the eyes of the jury. Looks and music play a part, obviously attraction and all that, but Escape had a pretty good run. It wasn't about their looks why they were just so mediocre. It was they were a mediocre group. They could sing all right. I did like Just Kicking It, but I wasn't like a big Escape fan. They weren't as good as In Vogue. They weren't as good as SWV. They weren't as creative as TLC. Obviously, Destiny Child came along because they had Beyonce lead singer that had that beat. And Brownstone to me, but I thought they were a decent third tier female vocal group in the '90s who had a couple. Were they as good as Cut Close? I thought Cut Close had them beat too, but they hit. They hit for Jermaine Dupri. We can get in total. We can get into the debate about how what you find attractive, what you don't. We can get into all that. But the reality is that it's always about your music. See, because if it looks was the whole nine, how come In Vogue didn't sell records like Boys to Men? And they were like the female equivalent to Boys to Men because they were what we call old time, young time. They had an old vibe about them, but they were young. But they had that old spiritual thing, that down home thing, which they were feeling old, but while they were young. Kind of like what Tony Braxton suffered as an artist too. There's some people they just fall into that young old vibe, and they never get to play their youth out. And when they get old, it was like they were old all the time. So the Escape thing with Jermaine Dupri, but they still did well. They had a pretty good career of what they were. There's always more R&B female groups, and it was always competitive, but they got in. They had a little bit of a run. There was not going to be no breakout act, and these groups are all set up to have that one. Got to have on your female, you got to have your Donna Ross or your Beyonce type. You got to have that one. At least have a Kelly Rowland type of career if you can. That's how it's set up. It's not meant for forever and ever in a day. But that's only if, of course, you don't have that breakthrough, kind of like TLC situation, because, they fit good together, but no one was meant to be solo. It's tough to form a solo career, especially when no one don't really stand out. But anyway, he addressed that. But I will say this about Jermaine Dupri. I always looked at him as kind of like a Junior Whopper version of Diddy, even though he came up before Diddy. He was more musical talented than Diddy, but he always fell in behind him because from the marketing perspective, Jermaine Dupri never hit it like that with his own acts. Not like that. He did hit before Diddy with Crisscross and that, but when it came to like Total and Escape, Diddy always had like the edge on him. With the rappers, with the people he had, he just hit. He hit. So marketing plays a part. There's an imagery thing. There is an imagery window. But I don't know why you would come out and say they're a tough group to sell because they weren't cute and using Biggie, who was saying it. I don't know why you would say that, Jermaine Dupri, because they did do pretty good. And beauty's in the eyes of the beholder. We don't know who's going to blow up. We have no idea. Talent wins, but there's people that are color struck and they're imagery struck. But if your music hits, you start to look pretty attractive. I'm just saying it works in different ways. So I wouldn't have said that one, but that's where he went with it. So I thought I'd address that topic. So Jermaine Dupri saying Escape, it was a tough group because they weren't cute, but they had some success, and he didn't miss any meals by working with them. Let me know what you think in the comments though below. Please hit like, subscribe, welcome thoughts, comments, and I do respond. Thank you. Wash your hands. Keep your mind clear. Watch out for another share if you like. Hit that membership. Stay safe, stay blessed, stay woke, stay free. I'm out one time. Peace.